What is up, 49ers faithful? Welcome to another edition of the 49ers Rush podcast. I'm your host, John Chapman. I am excited today. I got to check one of the goals off of the John Chapman kind of whatever media, I don't know. I got to record with a legend, Larry Krueger, who has been one of the voices of San Francisco radio for over a decade. Incredible human being. I'd like to consider him a friend. I was a guest on his show earlier, and I asked, I want to promote this. So I'm going to cut now to his show. If you want to follow him, he just started off on YouTube, and it's already exploding. It's called The Krueg Show, Krueg. Again, this is Larry Krueger, and hopefully you enjoy our conversation. I know I sure did. It's a longer podcast, but we get into everything. So enjoy. Appreciate you guys, and go subscribe to The Krueg Show.
All right, another edition of The Krueg Show. Larry Krueger with you. Happy whatever day it is today. I don't keep track anymore. But with us to talk Niner football is John Chapman. He's got a great podcast on the Niners, and he's with us on YouTube to talk all things Niners. What's going on, John? How are you? I feel like I know you. This is the first time we've actually gone face to face, but I've been following you on Twitter and kind of retweeting your stuff from time to time, doing the Niner pre and post game through the years. And I've just always been very impressed by the content that you put out there. Sometimes it's film work, sometimes it's opinion, sometimes it's information. How you doing? Thanks for coming on.
Man, this is an honor for me, Larry. So first, thank you. Big fan of what you've done for the community. And I love it. This time of the year is awesome. You know, where free agency, draft is right around the corner. It's like Christmas. And so things are good right now. Just putting out as much content as possible, and excited about today to be hanging out and talking with the legend, man.
Oh, legend. Come on. We were talking before you went live there about how you were watching film on Hassan Ridgeway. And, I was looking at Ridgeway myself last night and just kind of looking at that addition. The Niners, I didn't like that they lost DJ Jones, but watching Ridgeway, I liked him at Texas. And I wanted to see what he looked like in the pros because I really haven't honed in on him. And, he's kind of, he's got some quick feet. He's a big bodied guy, 6'4", DJ was like 6'1". This is a bigger guy to some degree, not quite as strong against the run. He's had some injuries. He's a guy who's always been thought of as a guy who has a lot of talent. It's just a matter of, is he going to bring it? What did you see when you rolled it back and forth on him?
Man, he's a bigger bodied guy, a much bigger bodied guy. So he's much more stout and anchor instead of kind of that penetrating, you're not going to see a lot of finesse moves with this guy. That's not what he is. He's not a high motor guy. He's an anchor. So if, the question is he a DJ Jones replacement? You're going to be absolutely furious with his play because I don't think that's what he is. I think he's a Kentavious Street replacement.
Okay.
That kind of Bravo. Well, yes and no, because ideally you wanted Street as your rusher, but he played on base downs far more than he was supposed to, and one of the worst, run defenders in the NFL last year from a defensive line standpoint. So I think he's somebody that brings you depth on that Bravo group that you would ideally want out there on first and second down. Now, he pushes the pocket well, and my favorite thing about him is he is always on the offensive line side of the field, which is positive. He doesn't get pushed back into the linebackers at all.
He played at Texas, interesting guy. He was a basketball player.
Yeah.
He was a basketball player who came to football late. And then, I think his family moved from California to Texas, and he had been a basketball player, and he gets to Texas and he's like, all my friends were playing football. They're like, why do you play football? Well, all my friends were playing football. So I decided I'd play football. Could you imagine, if you were that good, you could make it to the NFL and you just kind of like, why'd you play? Well, my friends were playing. I decided to play. I was really more of a basketball player. I can only imagine what Ridgeway would look like on a basketball court. I mean, talk about a guy that would look out of place, but that's his story. He was late to football. I'm kind of a late bloomer type.
And I got to be honest, like I'm a Longhorn man myself, and
okay, you're in Austin, right? Or
No, I'm in Pasadena now, but I
oh
grew
no,
up
that's
born
right.
and
That's
raised
right.
Texas.
Okay,
But like
that's
I
right.
could be honest, I coached against Hassan Ridgeway in the playoffs one year in Texas. And so I remember watching film of this kid and coaching against him. He was a beast. He didn't look like he does now. His body's different. He was tall and streamlined. He was like a skinny defensive end that would stand up and blitz off the edge at times in high school, but he's added so much weight. And I think he's finally found kind of his niche role. He's not a dynamic player. That's not what he is. He's a role guy who averaged 22 snaps a game last year. And that's kind of the mold that's the role he'll play for the 49ers. He's a spot guy. He's not going to push for starting reps. And that's not really who he is.
Yeah, he's a rotational player inside. And maybe that's what they want to do, right? I mean, that's what we saw this year is, man, play a ton of guys, play them in a rotation, make them play with their hair on fire, and then go to the next group of guys. It was like I felt like I was watching hockey, and it was like shifts. I mean, the Niners they came at you in waves, defensive line wise. So, what do you think if the season were today's opening day for the 49ers? What's their starting front four? What's their backup front four?
Yeah, I think starting front four is going to be Bosa and Ebukam on the outside. You got Eric Armstead, who just renegotiated his deal. And Kinlaw, if he's healthy, that's the biggest question mark and probably one of the biggest things about the whole entire team. That's your front four. And then you look to the second team. That's going to be a huge kind of, we're not sure on the other, because you got Charles Omenihu. I think Ridgeway would be in there as well. And then, you've got the whole Kevin Givens. I really like Givens and Maurice Hurst, who's going to be there. And so that other defensive end spot's going to be interesting. Who's going to be that role, because Arden Key's not signed currently. Jordan Willis not signed currently. There's still a spot out there, but you've got your 5 interior guys. DJ Jones leaving hurts for sure, but you've got 5 good, defensive tackles that can play inside, outside, if you're going to keep Eric Armstead inside. That's a big
I think Armstead stays inside. I think he
should.
stays inside. He's strong enough inside. It'll be interesting to see what they do as far as we know they prioritize D linemen in the draft. I mean, it's well documented at this point. Solomon Thomas, DeForest Buckner, Eric Armstead, Nick Bosa. We can go on and on and on. And this goes back. Dennis Brown, Ted Washington. You can go way back. Reggie McGrew, Kentwan Balmer. I mean, the Niners go D tackle in round 1. Probably, I would say in my lifetime, I would guess more than any other team in pro football. Where's the need up front? If you see them, if they're on the board at the 61 in the draft, is where does D line, whether it be end or tackle, line up on the priority list come draft day?
I think edge is as high as it possibly could be. It maybe it's even gotten higher after this first early round of free agency, right? Like we're recording this, we're live. What is it? Thursday at 2:30. They were heavy after Chandler Jones, and so that should tell you like what they value. They still want that pass rushing specialist that they just haven't found. D Ford was it for about 4 games before he got injured. And like, I think that's the thing that this team is missing. So if you're telling me at 61, which I love this draft class, and I love the edge class, there are so many quality guys that are there. And so if I was to bet any position, offense, defense, don't care, edge is probably likely going to be the first pick. If that's what I think John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan want to do.
Yeah. I mean, and there's guys that I really like in this draft too. Michael Clemens from Texas A&M. One of my favorites. I love Jeremy Gunter, who plays at Coastal Carolina. And I think both those guys will definitely be on the board at 61. And there'll probably be a number of other guys as well. I mean, and dialing up heat on the quarterback is going to be huge. Now, you mentioned Key and Willis. If you can have just one of those two guys, if Parag comes to you, Key or Willis, but not both, you're going Key.
My 3 wishes for 49ers free agent, which has gone really, really bad. Number 1 was Lakin. I want to make Trey Lance comfortable. He's gone. He got paid. Congratulations. Number 2, DJ Jones. Number 3 was Arden Key. And so that hope is still there just because we know it fits. But again, that was what I wanted. You look at what the 49ers have done the past 2 years. You find some off-tread, discounted edge defender that you could sign, Kerryon Hyder, Arden Key. They come in, thrive next to Bosa, which makes sense. And then you let them walk. You let them walk for money, and you take that comp pick, and you just keep recycling, these cheaper guys in there that aren't going to cost too much, but this is such a friendly system apart from all that talent. So they have success, and then you let them walk and you get the comp pick. That seems to be what they've done. Yeah, last year. I think they're probably going to do it again.
Where are you with Ebukam? I mean, disappointing, fast finish, kind of has a big second year cap number. I mean, I think his cap number, I think, is over 8 million or maybe close to 9. Where are you with Ebukam? Is he going to get replaced? Do you like him? I mean, I like what he did at the end of the year, but man, that price tag is still pretty exorbitant. If you need cap savings, you might be able to find guys in the draft and move on from Ebukam. Where are you with Samson?
The snap count throughout the playoff run and late in the year would suggest the 49ers love this guy. I understand the early frustrations against him. And, as somebody that's broken down every single play, offense and defense from the entire year multiple times, it was frustrated at the start. But, I mean, he was ascending player, as you said. And in the playoffs, they kept him on the field almost, if not more so, than Bosa. So it seemed like he was very important to what they were wanting to do and continue to play well. Now, if they weren't going to cut him, because his cap hit is huge, I think they would have already done so. So I know a lot of people, you look at, the cap expenditures and all that stuff, which the 49ers don't have top end players cap wise. We only have 2 players, if you don't count Jimmy Garoppolo. 2 players above that $10.5 million cap hit mark. And then you look down at number 3 and you see Samson there. And so I understand that, but I don't know. It seems like D'Amico loves the dude because he kept playing him more and more whenever everything was on the line.
I mean, I love the guy too. As far as I loved him in college, and I thought he was a steal in the draft. And then he kind of played. He looked as an edge guy in this wide 9. He's weight room. He's really strong. He's got a great motor. But man, it just didn't come together. But at the end of the year, it did. And so if he could dial it up all year the way he did at the end of the year, then maybe he's worth 8.5 million or whatever that price tag is. Since we're starting on defense, let's talk a little bit about the linebackers now. I mean, what'd you think of the Bobby Wagner rumor? The kid they got from Green Bay, Burks, was a good college player as well. Very fast linebacker, good in the open field. Sounds like he's going to be a special teamer, but I wouldn't be offended if he got some snaps from scrimmage. I think he's got some ability there as well. But there's talk about Dre Greenlaw getting dealt. They gave Azeez Al-Shaair a second round tender, and obviously there's Fred Warner, who's as good as any linebacker in the game. But where are you with their linebackers? What do you think of the Wagner rumor?
I love our linebacking core, the 49ers, and I think it's the best, most depth. You look at the 3 best linebackers across any team, you're not going to find any team more experienced and more upside at such a young age than the 49ers. I love the trio. And I get everybody wants to play GM and move everybody, but when you have 3 stud linebackers, 2 of which are super cheap, and Azeez and Greenlaw, who have had some injuries. Let's be honest. There was a point last year where it was just Azeez out there, right? So I'm all on the school of keep them all 3 this year, allow it to sort itself out next year, because again, Azeez, he's going to be an unrestricted free agent next year. So is Greenlaw. But don't spend money there where you've had so much success. It's kind of the strength of the defense, that in the D line, that front 7. So I want to keep them all. I love Bobby Wagner. Bobby Wagner makes 32 out of 32 teams in the NFL better. But here's the big but. You're going to have to pay him. It would be great to have him. Is he better than Greenlaw? Yes. Is he better than Azeez? Yes. But for how long and how much? Right now, Greenlaw and Azeez are cheap, super cheap. Wagner's not going to be cheap. I'd love to have him, but we're talking cap issues. You're going to have to cut somebody like Samson. You're going to have to cut somebody like that to get him in there. And we already are spoiled at that position as is. So not that I don't want him. It's just how much does it move the line on how good this defense is and what's that going to cost you elsewhere?
Yeah, I think that's a great breakdown. I agree. Who doesn't like Bobby Wagner? Yeah. I mean, Bobby Wagner tortured the Niners with his A-gap delayed blitzes and reading the offensive. As soon as the offensive lineman would turn his eyes, boom, Wagner shooting gaps. And I mean, to me, he's a pass rusher at this point. He's so damn good at those delayed blitzes up the middle. I'm just glad he's not, with Seattle, but I'm fearful he's going to go to the Rams. I think Rams or Chargers is what I'm hearing. And I mean, I'm praying for Chargers. And
Yeah, same here.
I don't want to see him, with the Rams. By the way, Tony Rodriguez weighing in on the chat. He says, "What's up, y'all?" I rarely use y'all, Tony.
Oh, I use it all the time, Tony.
Do you use y'all?
That's my language. Yeah.
What's up, y'all? Just found this Krug listening while I work. Go Niners. All right, Tony, we appreciate it. Well, we're enjoying the YouTube, and we've got John Chapman with us on the line on the show. And John, tell us a little bit, while we take a brief time out on the Niners, about your podcast and what motivated you to start it, how long you've been doing it, and how it's going for you.
This is wrapping up my 5th year, so the draft will start year 6 for me. Now, as I said earlier, I coached in Texas for about a decade, one of the largest schools in the country. Really enjoyed that job. The wife and I decided to become foster adoptive parents, which was incredible.
Good for you.
And as I'm coaching in Texas, which I had a bed in my office, like I would sleep there several.
Were you the head coach?
I eventually became the head coach. At this point, I was not. And so like it was the job. It was 90 hours a week, whatever, while teaching full time and all that stuff. But when we got our kids, we had some issues. Both got expelled the first year, which was awesome. And so I needed to spend more time at home and help out. So I had to leave coaching, and I had to get this football out. And so I just started a podcast, and it's kind of blown up. And, the 49ers Rush podcast, which is that's our show. And we're all over the place, YouTube, all that stuff. Just type in 49ers Rush or John Chapman. You'll find us. And man, it's been fun. And the people you meet, the community, it's been a lot of fun. So, check us out. See if you like it. We're a pretty positive group, I would say, and just try to put a lot of content out there and build the community. We're real big on community and bringing people together.
You'll never make it being positive, John. You'll never make it.
That's what everybody tells me. That's what everybody tells me.
I'm channeling my inner Gary Radnich into, you'll never make it being positive, kid. I'll tell you that right now. Tell us what you got going on draft day. It sounds like you got a little draft party going. Is that what we just put the graphic? Well, let's put that back up there. 49ersrushroadtrip.com.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about the road trip.
The draft is my baby, okay? So we pulled all stops. We rented a club at Mandalay Bay, brand new club called S-Bar. We're paying for Fred Warner and Elijah Mitchell to come out, do autographs, hang out. And it's an exclusive club, drinks included, all those things. We wanted to create the absolute best draft experience for 49ers fans. We're going to be there day 1 and day 2 of the draft. You get to meet some 49ers, hang out. We've got all kinds of content creators coming out. It's going to be incredible. So in Las Vegas, head to 49ersrushroadtrip.com. Get your tickets. It's going to be a blast. Our whole thing, and again, I keep going back to this, how can we make the best draft experience for 49ers fans? Throw out costs. Let's just make it happen. And so we'll see if the faithful come out. We've sold a lot of tickets already and really, really excited about this.
I could tell you my drunken stories from passing out outside the rum jungle at the Mandalay. But maybe not. Maybe that's another story, another day. We'll get into Larry Krueger passing out inside the Mandalay. I thought I was outside.
To that podcast. That's all I know.
You ever heard of the rum jungle?
I've heard of it. I've never been there.
I don't know if it's still there, but it was a wild night at the rum jungle. All right. I digress. All right, let's get back to the Niners a little bit, because to me, the one area we started on the defense. So let's finish up on the defense. I agree with you on the linebackers. Strength of the team. Greenlaw's a stud. Warner's a stud. Al-Shair's a monster. To me, if you do anything in the draft, I love this kid, Damone Clark, who plays for LSU. And I would love to add another fast, instinctive linebacker to this group, because to me, when you got a bunch of guys that can all run 4.5 and you can just snuff everything out on the second level, the Niners ask their linebackers in this D to play, cover a ton of field. I mean, they run a 5-2 front, and it's 5 guys in the line of scrimmage. Sometimes they'll put that linebacker. We saw Warner walk up in line of scrimmage, and they're giving you a 6-man surface, and there's like one linebacker in the second level. But so that guy's got to have instincts. He's got to be able to run. And they get these guys. All their guys have instincts and can run. Yeah. It's as good a linebacking core as you're going to find in the league, I think. And also, all these guys can really run. So they shut down that space. That's a strength of their football team. Let's get to the secondary. That's not a strength. We don't know about K'Wan Williams. We don't know about Jason Verrett. They brought in Charvarius Ward. Tart is still, as a free agent. Is he coming back? It seems like very unlikely, though I like him. Grant and I were talking about maybe Jimmy Ward's future being maybe at strong safety and not free safety, which I kind of think is, he'll be better at the line of scrimmage as time goes on. What's your view of the secondary and of the addition of Charvarius Ward?
I love Ward. First off, I think he's incredible. 25 years old currently. He's going to be 26, I think, in 2 months. He's fun. Very consistent. Very consistent. Not a ball hawk guy. Not a lot of interceptions like J.C. Jackson, which a lot of the fan base wanted. This guy's much more consistent. Much more consistent. Fought for it hard to get to where he is, and it shows on film. Really, really enjoyed doing his breakdowns. Now, we have 3 good corners. 3 good young corners. This is a very young corner class. I love Emmanuel Mosley. Will he move to the slot nickel corner, which he started off as a rookie with the 49ers? That's where he played. He's been played outside. Or do you keep Ambry Thomas? I think Ambry Thomas is going to stay outside. I don't think he goes in. You have Diamador Lenore, who could possibly fight for that nickel spot if they don't bring back K'Wan Williams. But you nailed it, man. I think the second safety spot is probably the biggest question mark on this defense. Because, again, as you said, Tart's gone. Now, I love Hufanga, and he is fun and explosive and energetic. Does he have the athleticism to play safety down in, down out? That's something yet to be seen. He's delivered some explosives. He's got hurt on the back end as well. Tarvarius Moore, how's he going to come back on this injury? That's a rough one, the Achilles. So you've got to add a body if you don't bring back Tart. You've got to. I would not mind if the 49ers prioritize the safety position in this draft, but they haven't done it since they've been here. You look at John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, they haven't touched the safety position. Now, they had Tart, and they had Jimmy Ward when they came in. They drafted Tarvarius Moore in the 3rd round, but they moved him to corner, right, for the first year. So it doesn't seem to be a position that they really value. They almost seem like they could just pick somebody up off the street like Tavon Wilson and plug them in if injuries happen. But I would love to see them bring somebody, an explosive, top-end speed guy, like you were saying with the linebackers. That's what I would like. I'm not sure they're going to do it, though.
It's interesting because, the second, as you said, Mosley, Ward, those 2 guys are coming back. I mean, those 2 guys are there. Those are your starters, I guess, on the corner. And then who's going to run K'Wan's spot? Are they going to bring back K'Wan? If you could bring back Verrett or K'Wan, but not both, what do you think there?
Verrett.
Yeah, despite the injuries.
Here's my problem. I love Shark K'Wan Williams. He's awesome, but fan favorite of mine, how tough he is. I do feel his play has dissipated in back-to-back years. And so that scares me a little bit. Would I love to have him out there? Yes, as long as we're not playing against a good slot wide receiver team. I think in the run game, he's incredible. Against tight ends, he's great. But against, the Cooper Kupps or the Rondale Moores or the Tyler Lockett's, who are in our division, who we've got to play 6 times this upcoming year, I don't think that he had the best games. Now, who has a good game against Cooper Kupp? The answer is nobody. But I do think that his play has descended. You might be able to get him back cheap, but I would much rather roll Emmanuel Mosley inside or perhaps you put Diamador Lenore out there and see what he can do. I like Verrett, but I don't want to bring him back as a starter. I want him as a depth guy. That's what I would prefer.
I don't understand why Lenore couldn't get back on the field after the early season. I know he got burned by Watkins for the bomb in Philly. But I thought he showed some good things early in the year. Late in the year, it seemed like, whoever they had beside him was going to be on the field. Like he was like the last resort.
Yeah, it didn't matter what position, whether it was, Deontay Johnson or Dre Kirkpatrick or Josh, God bless it, Norman. It didn't matter. Like they were just throwing anybody out there. And it was just like, let's see what this kid could do. We saw what he could do in training camp, and he was awesome. In the preseason was great. And then they were just like, throw it away. You're coming back next year. It's a redshirt year. I don't know. I don't know what happened with that.
Yeah. And then Thomas went the other way. Thomas looked so raw. And so he was like a fish out of water. When I saw him in camp, I thought, "Oh no, man, there's no chance." I mean, this guy's stiff. He looks tall and long limbed and fast, but he looks like he's never played corner in his life. And that was probably because he sat out last year. But I mean, you want to talk about a rusty football player. Ambry Thomas in camp, I thought, man, they're not even going to be able to make this. This guy's not even going to make the team. Then they get him on the team. He doesn't play at all early. They coached him up. Man, by the end of the year, he looked like maybe he could potentially be their best corner down the road. I mean, he's long, he's fast. He seemed like he was improving week to week. I mean, it was really encouraging watching Thomas improve. It shows that he's got an NFL future.
And to piggyback on that, Larry, if you want hope as a 49ers fan, here's what I would say. Kyle Shanahan is one of the few coaches in the NFL that believes in almost redshirting the rookie class. And so it's very easy to be upset about Diamador Lenore, about Jalen Moore, about, let's be honest, the second round pick, right? Aaron Banks, or even Trey Lance. But for Kyle Shanahan, his entire MO is learn our system, just sit and learn. When you step in, be ready. And so, like, you watch the path that was created by Ambry Thomas, it kind of gives me a little bit in the back of my mind just being like, man, what if Trey Sermon, what if Aaron Banks, what if these guys actually are quality guys? They just wanted them to sit and learn for a little bit. And I think, letting Laken Tomlinson go, Aaron Banks played left guard his entire life. And so maybe if I got my like sunshine, like lids on, maybe it's going to be an all right draft pick. Maybe he'll be a quality starter. I don't know. That's what I can tell myself to sleep at night anyway.
Give me the best move and worst move so far from the offseason. It hasn't been there's not lots of great moves that you can point to. Oh, that was awesome. But give me what you think is the best move of any kind that they've made since the playoff loss to the Rams. And what you think the one move that you would like to take back or see them take back.
I'll start with my negative take here. Letting Kentavious Street go. He was a restricted free agent. You could have kept him for pities, but they let him go. I thought that was the best move. I liked Kentavious Street.
That was the best move?
That was the best move. He was the worst run defender. Not against the run. You said earlier he's a pass rush guy, but they played him all the time versus the run because they were injured. And a big reason why Fred Warner's play wasn't elite this year was because of Kentavious Street. Every single time he came in the game at 3 technique, they ran the ball right at him, and he would be tripping up Fred Warner. Fred Warner got great at the end of the year when Eric Armstead started playing more snaps inside. So I think that would be my personal best move. Or I thought that was smart. Worst move, I kind of wish they would have overpaid for Chandler Jones. Chandler Jones and Nick Bosa would have been the best pass rushing duo maybe in the past 5 years in the NFL. Going back to Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, that would have been unreal. But this 49ers front office will not overpay for outside of the house talent. They learned that early on when they first came here, and they just have proven over and over again they're not going to overpay for outside talent moving forward. So
let's look at the departures. So it's, DJ Jones moved on to Denver. Laken Tomlinson went to the Jets. Raheem Mostert has jumped to the Dolphins, which I didn't think was going to happen the first day because they signed another back, but they got Mostert as well. Tom Compton jumped to the Jets, and then today Trent Sherfield has jumped to the Dolphins. Biggest loss there in your mind?
49ers coaches taking our talent, man. Come on now. Those are former coaches.
They're shopping at the poaching. Niner aisle.
I know. It's Laken Tomlinson. The number one priority for this entire offseason should be make Trey Lance comfortable. And so you lose a stalwart that has played almost every snap for 5 straight years. That hurts. Now, you did draft a second round left guard to step in, as I said earlier, at Banks, but he's not going to be Laken Tomlinson early. But $13 million for Laken, I'm so happy he got paid. I love seeing people get paid. But good gosh, I was thinking Pro Football Focus thought he'd get $8 million a year. I was like, dude, I'd go as high as 10, but over 13, I don't know about that. I'm glad he got it though. But
he's a good man.
He's a
good man. He's a good man with big hands. Man, I shook his hand in camp last year or 2 years ago, and I was like, what the heck? What the heck kind of hand is that? That guy's got some monster meats, monster grips. This one from Sean Yapel. He says, best wishes, Krug, checking in from Southern California.
All right, Sean, I see you, SoCal.
There you go. GTC Reels saying Krugs. All right, we got some people in the house. with this one is kind of interesting. Before we get to our break here, so what do you think of possibly La'el Collins signing the Cowboy offensive lineman and then trading Mike Mcglinchey for a pick? What do you think?
Okay, La'el Collins, yes, 1,000,000%. Right tackle is a giant question mark right now. Mcglinchey's good. He's a very good run blocker, but those like 3 to 4 mistake plays he has a game, and that's if he's healthy. So you want to trade Mcglinchey? Maybe you could trade him to one of those other former 49er coaches that keep signing all our players, but his injury's rough. That quad injury, that's not a normal one. It's not an ACL, which is crazy to say because ACL is a big deal, but today's NFL, not so much. I don't think that you're going to be able to trade him because the health issue. But McDaniel, he knows what he's been through. He knows how he's, whatever. So maybe Saleh, maybe McDaniel, that would work. But yes, La'el Collins, oh my gosh, bring him in. That would be a dream come true, man. That dude can play.
GTC Real says, is McGlinchey a bust? A lot of us seem to think so. I mean, McGlinchey's a good run blocker. He's got some limitations against real top tier speed guys. I could see the argument that some people say, well, he's a guard. I don't see him really as a guard. I see him as a right tackle, which is what he is. But he's just going to always have to work. He's going to have to bust out that jump rope. Well, after he does his lifts, he needs to bust out the jump rope, right? Because, I mean, he's getting stronger. You can see his upper body development, but what he really needs is light feet to deal with the Von Millers of the world. And I think it's too simplistic to say he's a bust, but he was the 9th pick overall and he is a right tackle. So, I mean, it's not looking like the greatest draft pick of all time as far as value, but I think it's too negative to say he's a bust.
I agree with you. And, you look at that pick, he got his 5th year. If you get that 5th year option picked up, that 100% deletes the fact that you were a quote unquote bust. But here's the problem. One of the major issues of the entire NFL, there's not enough quality tackles, right? There's just not. And the fact that we have had Trent Williams and Joe Staley and Trent Brown and all these different guys come through here, we have been absolutely spoiled. And so if you look at Mike Mcglinchey, let's say he's an average left tackle. There's 32 teams. There's 64 starting tackles in the NFL. He's probably average. He's probably in that 30, ranking category just because of what he can do in the run game. He's not a bust. If we were to cut him, he would sign somewhere for probably $8 to $10 million tomorrow. So like, is he as good as La'el Collins? Nope, never has been. But he's not. Bust is the wrong word.
Yeah. We've got one more comment here, if we can throw it up there. From Panama Queen, good show, Krug and John. So thank you, Panama Queen.
Yeah.
We had our sponsor there. Let's pay the bills here because March 26th and 27th, and you've been doing this for a while. I don't know if you have a lot of sponsors on your show, but we have our first sponsor of our show, and it's the Good Guys Hot Rod Custom Association, and they've got the show coming up at the Pleasanton Fairgrounds, March 26th and 27th. And if you want to register your ride or get tickets or just more information about the show, go to their website. Which is just good-guys.com. Good with the dash in the middle, guys.com. As I said, it's the 26th and 27th. It's going to be at the Alameda County Fairgrounds in Pleasanton, and it's America's favorite car show. There'll be over 3,000 American-made and powered hot rods and customs and muscle cars and trucks on display. They'll have their Nitro Thunderfest. They'll have their Lowrider exhibition. Who's going to win this year's Goodyear Fuel Curves Custom of the Year? So it's a lot of fun, and it's cool. If you're people looking for things to do with their family, with the pandemic, everything's been shut down. Now you got something to do on a weekend. Head out to the Alameda County Fairgrounds in Pleasanton and check them out, March 26th and 27th. Once again, where do you go? Good-guys.com. All right, and thanks to all the good people, Andrew Ebel and the good people at Good Guys for sponsoring the Krueger Show. All right, let's get into what everybody really wants to talk about. Where's Jimmy going? Right? What's up with Jimmy? I mean, I go to the butcher shop. The butcher's like, "Hey, Krug, what's up with Jimmy? Where's Jimmy going?" I mean, everybody wants to know where Garoppolo's headed. Where do you think?
I've been pretty adamant for a while, even whenever it probably shouldn't have been. that the Cleveland Browns were the best fit for Jimmy, right? If I was a franchise and I'm like, okay, if I had Jimmy G on my team, what would that mean for me? If Jimmy was on the Browns last year, they make the playoffs. I'm not a very big Baker guy. And so they've come out, they leaked to Chris Mortensen that they want a grown up as their quarterback. Baker's demanding a trade. It just makes too much sense because they have a stellar offensive line, a great defense. Tell me that's where Jimmy would be successful. And so for me, that just makes too much sense for me. I think the Browns are by far the best chance. Now they're out of the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes, but they've already set their house on fire. What do? You bring in a guy like Jimmy that's going to calm everything down. That's what he would do. Stabilizing force and just allow their run game and defense to dominate. I think they make the playoffs. I really, really do in that division.
I've been begging for Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah coming back in this trade. I doubt it could happen,
bro. I would love for it.
Yeah, he's a terrific player. I loved him at Notre Dame, and I wanted the Niners to get him in the draft, and they took the wrong guy from Notre Dame, in my opinion. They took Aaron Banks instead of JOK, and then JOK goes to Cleveland this year, and he was awesome, man. He had some games where he was really incredible. All right, what do you think if they can't get JOK? What is the price tag? What can they get? What do they get? What are the Niners going to get for Jimmy?
I think the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan will not take a cheap deal. He is so prideful. Like, he would rather have Jimmy on the roster for a whole nother year than, sell him for peanuts. He believes that he's worth something. So I think the most realistic option is similar to what you saw with Carson Wentz, where it's 2/3, a third this year and a conditional third following year, where if he hits playing time quotas or the playoffs or starts or whatever, that could bump up to a second in 2023. I think that's probably the most likely, which, man, the 49ers would have so many picks on day 2, which is the best thing in the world for this draft because it is very day 2 heavy, talent-wise.
What kind of quarterback do you think? I mean, where are you on Garoppolo? You've been, obviously, you don't do a Niner podcast and not talk a lot about Garoppolo. So where are you if I'm a regular listener to the John Chapman Niner podcast? Where are you with Jimmy? What kinds of things are you saying about him?
I'll say this. Amazing locker room guy. And if you're just looking at, okay, is he a star? The answer is absolutely resounding no. But you have to add context to these things to understand how complicated the NFL is. There's 32 starting quarterbacks in the NFL. Is he one of the best 32? Hell yes, he is. Is he a top 10? No, he is not. I think he's somewhere in that kind of 16, 17 range, which is okay. But if you have one of them, you're not content. You want to go get something better. The 49ers did that. But some of these other teams with coaches on the hot seat, they don't have that. And so he's an average quarterback in the NFL. And that's not an insult. You surround him with talent. It's the goldfish theory, right? You put him in a big tank, he's going to be big. You put him in a small tank, he's going to be small. So you can obviously get to the playoffs, the NFC Championship, the Super Bowl with this guy if you have a quality roster. He's going to get a coach. He's going to stop a coach from getting fired. And so if I'm on the hot seat somewhere, I'd be happy to have Jimmy.
Mostert jumped to Miami. That kind of bugged me because I wanted to see him come back, and I just didn't think that he would have a market. But he got like $3 million. I was a little surprised that Mostert got paid coming off a year where he have 2 carries or
he got a raise.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
He got a raise and he played 4 plays. He got a raise. But it's that's. You remember Kyle Shanahan had to do the same thing his first year here for Pierre Garçon, for Weston Richburg, for all these guys, right? Marquise Goodwin. He had to overpay just to get guys to come here. That's where the Dolphins are now. And they got the money. So I'm glad he got paid. I can't believe he got a raise. 4 plays, he got a raise.
Yeah. Now, and as much as I didn't want to see him go, this draft is loaded with running backs. Tons of running backs in this draft. Give me a running back you like in this draft.
Man, if probably one of my favorites, and this is going to be linked, is Rachaad White out of Arizona State, which, the Herm Edwards, Arizona State connection is gigantic with, his best friend, right? John Lynch. I think that fits. The scheme fits. All those things fit. But there's lots of other guys. Zamir White out of Georgia. A lot of people know him and see him. There are guys that you can get almost anywhere in this draft that are going to fit our scheme. So I think we see something very similar where we might get 2 running backs, but they're going to be late day 3 guys. We have the last pick in the NFL draft, Mr. Irrelevant this year. That's going to be a running back. I'm telling you right now. I wish that was a Vegas prop. Last pick in the draft. It's going to be a running back to the 49ers. I'm telling you right now.
Trey Sermon, what'd you think of Sermon this year? I mean, we didn't get a chance to see a lot of them, that's for sure.
I think pass protection was one of his biggest issues, which was crazy because he excelled at it at Ohio State. So that's one issue that he's going to have to fix. I think it just took a while for him to see what was up, but he's going to be a factor in this offense. If he was not, then we would have kept Mostert or we would have brought somebody else in already. So we're going to get 5 running backs. We only have 3. We have 4 now. Jeff Wilson Jr., we got him for sure, but he's going to be a factor. So I know he was a healthy scratch a lot of times and all those things, but he is going to be a factor. He's going to have a shot. He's just got to learn to be learn what a pro is and what that looks like. I think that was something he was missing.
Allen Robinson went to the Rams.
Yeah.
Did that just happen?
Yeah.
I just looked down at my phone and it said Allen Robinson went to the Rams.
Wasn't cheap either. They paid top dollar, and
wow, that's interesting.
Yeah.
They got Robert Woods, you got Cooper Kupp, and I guess OBJ is gone.
Yeah, right? He's a free agent right now.
He's a free agent.
Yeah.
You still got Van Jefferson, and now you got Allen Robinson.
They got a lot. Hey, I'll tell you this. The NFC West is the best wide receivers hands down in the planet. Debo Ayuk, DK Metcalf, Hopkins, Rondale Moore, Lockett. It's murderer's row for corners. And so I'm glad we got Charvarius Ward. I would love to get a stud nickel corner, though. We can't get enough corners, man.
DJ Reed was a guy that I was thinking maybe the Niners would try to bring back into the fold, and I think he went to the Jets, right? So, once again, another Niner coach taking another player that they're familiar with. Coaches so many times they want to get the guy that the film's not enough. It's like, I want to know his practice habits. If I'm going to invest money in a guy, I want to invest in a guy that I know. If there's one consistent theme that's played out over and over again, it's guys go with players they like.
Yeah, it is. It's a fit. It's a fit. We wanted to keep DJ Reed. Shanahan tried to get sneaky and slide him under the injured reserve, and he got poached. He got poached. So, keeping it real goes wrong. That's what happened to Shanahan on that one.
What do you think of the receiving core? The 49ers have been rumored to be after a number of receivers. Where do you put? They got Debo. They've got Ayuk. We really liked what we saw out of Jennings. He emerged as the season progressed. He made some big catches, some season on the line type catches, and he came down with it. So he kind of proved himself a little bit this year. But they don't really have that speed guy. What do you think of the receiving core? Is there a receiver that you want them to go after?
Yeah, and I'll say this on top of it. You just lost Sherfield to Miami, which doesn't make anything better. It makes everything worse. And so even though he was just a role guy, didn't really have a huge impact last year. The good news is, again, if you're looking at that 61 spot, not saying the first pick should be on a wide receiver, but you need depth. You need downfield stretchers if you're making this transition to Trey Lance. And so there are so many guys. John Mechie, the third out of Alabama. I think he is one of these.
Right? He'll be hurt at the beginning of the year.
He'll be hurt, but he seems like he's going to be again, this is a player that will fall. If he wasn't hurt, you don't get him, right? You don't get him at 61.
Here's the guy I'm wondering about, John. How about Jameson Williams?
I love him.
Is Jameson Williams, who's got a torn ACL, he's super skinny, he's a home run hitter, but he probably is not going to be ready till, I don't know, Thanksgiving, right? He tore his ACL late in the year. So, he may be a redshirt guy first year. Would you invest? Where does he go? No, go ahead. Where does he go?
He's my number 2 wide receiver in this class. I love him. I got Trey Burks ahead of him, Traylon Burks ahead of him, and then Jameson. He's awesome. I think he goes top 20. I really do.
Despite the injury.
despite the injury. You look at what happened to Caleb Farley last year, right? I loved that corner out of Virginia Tech, but he had injury issues with his back. He still went in the late first round. I think that's what happens. But here again, this draft is peppered with wide receivers. And so if you get somebody that falls like Jamison Williams, like John Mechie, like George Pickens, right out of Georgia, another, blue chip prospect having injury issues that could fall, that would, everybody was saying, oh, this is going to be a first round pick, but injuries happen. And so there's a lot of guys in this draft that fit that. I know a lot of 49ers fans, they all bring up Christian Watson, Trey Lance's former teammate at North Dakota State. I hate to say it, man. You're going to have to trade up into the 40s if you even want a shot at that kid. He's just too clean a prospect.
Well, and look what he ran.
4.38 or 4.36.
4.2, I thought. Wasn't it 4.28?
His adjusted time, like his official time came out later than that. But yeah,
official?
He was flying.
But he's flying, and he's like 6'3", 6'4", pretty big receiver who was flying.
Yes.
Yeah, I'd be very intrigued by him. I got to think, with those times and that size, I don't care if he played in FCS school or not. He ain't going. He's going like 20, 25, 30 in that range, right? He'll be a first round pick. I think.
Fun.
You ran 4.2 at 6'4", isn't he like 6'4"?
Yeah, 6'5" is what it was listed at, but I think
6'5".
he came in 6'4". Yeah, he's a big dude.
I mean, he's flying. Speed receivers. Where do you put a field stretching receiver on the list of, like, how would you list the Niner needs in priority?
And again, this is something that changed dramatically from last year to this year. Yak is kind of the thing. Yards after the catch, Jerry Rice invented it, Kyle Shanahan, specialty, all those things. You need field stretchers now. Trey Lance, and one of the things that why you make this transition, why you trade up to 3, why you spend all that capital, is because it alleviates all the pressure in the run game, because teams have to back up because he's got a rocket. You got to take advantage of that now. You need some of those guys. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who's a free agent. I would love to have him out there. But yes, that vertical threat is now a real thing that you have to have. Debo can do it. Ayuk can do it, but that's not really their MO. You need one of those guys that could just go, and everybody's got to back up. That's what you got to get that at some point in the draft or free agency. You got to go get that right now.
Valdez-Scantling's an interesting name because, he's not a guy that catches the ball consistently. There's some drops, but the home run hitter ability is there. I mean, he'll have lines where it's like 2 catches, 85 yards and a touchdown. He's a downfield threat. That one's interesting. Kyle Matthews got a question here. This one's pretty good. He says, should the Niners go in on Austin Hooper or Marquez Valdez-Scantling? A lot of talk about Austin Hooper. He's a De La Salle kid, NorCal kid, played at Stanford. And, Stanford's got a great lineage of tight ends. It seems like when Hooper's name came up, we saw the Niners had poked around on him before. They do have George Kittle. Seems like that would be pretty like a redundant part at too high a price tag. It's almost like Austin Hooper's too good, for what the Niners need to go with Kittle. But what do you think of Hooper?
I like him. Shanahan loves him, right? He was with him in Atlanta whenever they were together and had a lot of success. So Shanahan loyalty program is always in full swing. I think that he would love to have him alongside because, if you look at the current tight end kind of pecking order, Charlie Warner has excelled wonderfully. Ross Dwelly has rescinded. So Shanahan wants 3. I think if I had to pick out of these 2, I would go Marquez Valdez-Scantling because he fits the need more. If Kyle Shanahan was having his choice and the prices were similar, I think he'd go Austin Hooper. And Hooper might be a little bit cheaper. He's getting paid a lot of money from the Browns. They overpaid to get him so that he didn't come to us, and they had to pay the price tag for him. And now he's not even going to be on their team, but they're still paying for him.
Everything starts on offense with your offensive line, and they lose Laken Tomlinson at left guard. You could argue they already had a hole at right guard. So what do you think of Aaron Banks? How come you think we didn't see Aaron Banks at all this year? I mean, is Aaron Banks that bad? I mean, that he couldn't get on the field at all? I mean, I think he was only even active. He was only up, as they say, like maybe twice all year.
It was bad.
This is a second-round draft choice.
It was bad. It was really bad. And I think they just want him at left guard. I think that's kind of where he was comfortable. Lakin never missed time, and so we never saw it. They tried him at right guard early. He didn't make the transition. And so if you're watching, you go back and you watch his film in training camp in preseason, it's not good. It's bad. In fact, it's awful. He just can't play right guard. And so I when we go into camp now, he's going to be the starter at left guard. So that's something that's going to have to be stepped up, and we're going to have to see. But jury's out. It's a huge incomplete on that one.
What do you think of them letting Compton jump? That was the other thing. They drafted Jalen Moore. They showed a little bit more confidence in Moore. He played almost every snap of left tackle in the preseason.
Yeah.
And then suddenly he's not good enough to hold off Tom Compton at right guard. That was another shocker at right tackle. Compton played over Jalen Moore at right tackle, and they were talking about it being, well, they're going to share time. And then it was just all Compton.
That was bad, right? So they were switching series for 2 games, and I'll be honest with you, Compton played better than he did. And so they gave the job to Compton. I was like, man, all right, whatever. But then whenever Trent Williams got hurt, he didn't even get the left tackle job, right? You remember they brought in Colton McKivitz, who started that one game, and it was like, oh, wow. So this is a whole new level of bad. But then again, there was one game early where he was great at left tackle. So I don't know, man. That's what this draft class is. It's Diamador Lenore who flashes, and then it's almost like he's in the doghouse. It's, Jalen Moore flashes, doghouse. Is this just another Brandon Ayuk situation that, hey, these guys got to learn what it takes to be a part of this team before they get that playing time, and maybe they hit that? But yeah, there's a lot of themes that seem to be on cycle, and we don't get to see behind the scenes. So we don't know what the issues are, whether it's, discipline, team meetings, whatever, maturity. We really don't know. But it's a concern. It's a major concern.
It's funny. Somebody asked me the other day, well, where's O-line on the whole list of priorities? And I said, well, if you could tell me how the 49ers actually feel about Aaron Banks and Jalen Moore, I could give you that answer better than I can right now. Because I don't know. They drafted Jalen Moore. I think he's pretty good. They drafted Aaron Banks. I saw him at Notre Dame. Thought he was pretty good. I didn't think he was awesome or dominant, but I didn't think he was Josh Garnett. Thought he was pretty good. So I kind of like those guys, but we didn't see them. So I don't know if they can play at all. Maybe those guys can't play dead. And guess what? If those guys aren't any good, then O-line is like probably the number one priority in the upcoming draft. If those guys are good, then maybe it's corner, maybe it's receiver, maybe it's D tackle, maybe it's D end. It's like if those guys really aren't good enough to play, and that's the thinking of the 49er organization, don't you think then that they almost have to go offensive line early and often in the draft come April?
Again, what's the number one priority of this offseason? It should be make Trey Lance comfortable. That's it. If Trey Lance can make the next step, whatever that is, and become, an every down starter, he's the starter and you're excelling, you are successful as a team. As the 2021 draft class, as the 2022, make Trey comfortable. Get offensive linemen. One guy that I absolutely love is Dylan Parham out of Memphis. He is
I like
fun.
him too. Kind of a brawler.
Yes, brawler that can play center guard. You put him in at guard right now, and he transitions to center whenever Alex Mack chooses to hang him up. Like, those are priorities. What I think the 49ers front office will do is draft edge first. What I would probably do is draft interior offensive line first. But that's just me. Again, obviously, you got to deal with the situation, who's available at 61, who's not. But I would be very happy if we go interior offensive line again early.
Sometimes I'll check out Niner Nation because they've got some good stuff on there. I don't know if you're a Niner Nation guy or not, but Kyle Posey wrote an article. He says 11 available free agents that could interest the 49ers. I'm going to run these guys by you. Just give me what you quickly think. Edge, he's got 3 guys. Arden Key, we've already talked about. Jerry Hughes, who's a little bit older player, I think maybe 32. And then Melvin Ingram, I really like Melvin Ingram. Give me your thoughts, Edge. How would you rank those guys? Key, Ingram, and Hughes.
I would go Key, Hughes, Ingram. I like Ingram, but he's a little bit more of a 3-4 guy. But I do like him. I would take Key.
Okay, safety is a big need. Do you bring back Tart? He's also suggesting Kareem Jackson and the Honey Badger, Tyrann Mathieu. I mean, there's 5 people on the text line right now saying Honey Badger, Honey Badger. Everybody knows him because he's a high-profile guy. I love him. He's a big-time playmaker. We all saw that at LSU. We're seeing that basically in the NFL. Honey Badger makes plays, and he's passionate about football. He's also going to probably get a pretty big price tag.
Yeah, I would go Honey Badger, Tart, Jackson. That would be my order for those 3.
Yeah. How about wide receiver? Ray McLeod, Juju Smith-Schuster, or Marquez Valdez-Scantling?
I know the 49ers have had several meetings and contacts with the agent of Ray McLeod. And so I think he's probably, again, if I had to bet on one player the 49ers will sign at any position, I think Ray McLeod is coming. So I would go Ray, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and then I'm not even going to say that third name. I would keep Juju away from this young wide receiver core.
You don't like the impact in the room.
I think that he's a hell of a player, and I love his physicality. But yeah, I mean, now we've seen Kendrick Bourne and that kind of playful spirit, fun spirit. The 49ers haven't shied away from that at all. My issue is the targeting of other players and TikToking on the field before the game. Like, I feel like just added motivation isn't what the 49ers are about, but maybe I'm off on that. But yeah, I would prefer not to have Juju.
I just don't think he complements what they need. I mean, they've got bigger receivers. If you told me they didn't have Juwan Jennings, maybe I'm interested in Juju. But with what they have and what they need speed. They need a vertical threat.
Yep.
So, I would rather have Valdez-Scantling probably between Juju and him. Ray McLeod's interesting because he had a great year for the Steelers as a return man. And they need a returner. There's just no question about it. Their special teams this year. We all know the Green Bay success, but I would say their special teams cost them at least 2 games, maybe 3.
Yep. Oh, it was the worst. It was so bad. And it was descending for 5 straight years. And so one of my favorite things about Kyle Shanahan this offseason is that I think he's grown up a lot. He's moved away from some of the guys, that have been there. That was his whole college. He's a Longhorn, Hightower. They were teammates at Texas. And so they were buddies. And allowing him, and this is another thing that I think is great as well. You don't fire him. You just tell him you got to find another job or you're gone. And so he found another job. And so that's great. Everybody saves face. You move on. Everybody wins. There's no losers in that ordeal. But yes, I'm very excited about special teams because whenever you go into a game knowing you've already lost 1 out of 3 phases, that's rough. That puts a lot of pressure on your offense and defense.
And we said 11, so we'll throw all 11 out here. Bradley Bozeman, Riley Reef on the offensive line. What are they going to do? Are they going to go into the market and get themselves a low-cost offensive lineman to replace Tomlinson and kind of supplement what they have?
If I knew
once again, it comes back to the Moore and Banks question.
Yeah.
We don't know how they feel about those guys.
If I knew one of those people have ever shook hands with Kyle Shanahan before in their life, then I would say yes, because he loves his former players and people he knows. But man, I'd go Bozeman. Yeah, I'd go Bozeman.
Let's finish in the quarterback room, and we appreciate you spending time with us. Trey Lance, awesome. Trey Lance is played 2 games this year. I'm a Trey Lance fan. I might as well, full disclosure here. I believe in the guy. I believe in his athleticism, his brain, his ethics, his desire to play the game. I think he comes from great stock, and he's going to be successful. It's not linear, and it doesn't happen overnight, and it's going to take some time. But yes. I think you saw improvement from game 1 to game 2. You're going to see that much more improvement from season 1 to season 2. I'm all in on Trey Lance and have been since the draft. Give me your thoughts on Lance.
I'm with you, man. I'm a Trey Lance fiend. I loved his film. I love what Here's my issue whenever you're talking quarterbacks. And whenever I do all my draft evaluations, I always try to find, okay, how will this player be successful? How is this player going to bust? And usually it comes back to the work ethic. He's got it off the charts. Maturity and how he handles himself. Yeah, there's no issues there. Physical tools off the charts. Youth, he's got that as well. Injury history. Yeah, we didn't have any before this year. So figuring out all these different ways try to find a pathway where he's not successful, where he doesn't fit. And that's where I struggle. You look at somebody like Trevor Lawrence, who, has the highest ceiling maybe ever. You put him on a crappy team and he struggles. I mean, his numbers, his decision-making were really bad this year. Trey Lance gets to sit, gets to chill. He's surrounded by incredible talent. Find a reason why this kid will not be successful. I can't find one. I really think he's going to have some rookie moments, some, young quarterbacks, still the youngest quarterback in the NFL. He'll be the second youngest quarterback in the NFL after this year's draft. If he was coming out this year, he would be the second youngest quarterback next to Sam Howell out of North Carolina. That's how young he is. So it's going to be some growing pains, but I'm very excited. And I think if we can let him throw the ball downfield, running game opens up, big plays open up, Debo opens up, could be scary.
If I said to you, give me a Trey Lance comp. Give me a Trey Lance comp.
Warren Moon.
You know what? That is so weird that you said that. I was just thinking that. I was just thinking Warren Moon. That's amazing that you said that. I mean, that's not recent. That's you got to have a little bit of years on you to just go Warren Moon.
I'm a Texas guy, right? I'm a Texas guy. I can't help it.
Warren Moon as well. He's got incredible arm strength. He can run, but he's not a runner. You know what I'm saying? He can break tackles, but he's gonna make his name from the pocket down the field throwing the ball. That's what baffled me about the game plan against the Cardinals by Shanahan. I love Shanahan. I think Shanahan's a terrific guy, terrific coach. That game plan sucked.
Yeah, it did.
That was the worst game. They ran their quarterback up the middle, and exposed him to like 10 hits on his throwing shoulder in one game.
Yeah.
That game plan was atrocious. But I love that player. I really think Lance has got a future.
It makes sense. Like you said, the way they win. I'm with you there.
Warren Moon, man. We're both on the same page. Let's finish with this one. Is there a player in this upcoming draft that they would trade this year's and futures for?
Ooh.
Who do you think the 49ers absolutely can't pass in the first round? Well, they don't. As you know, GTC, there is no first-round pick from the Niners right now.
I like this question, though. I really like this question.
Why don't we just say at 61 even, because you know the draft. And there's a lot that has to happen. The pro day workouts and everything else. I mean, there's a lot of things that have to happen before draft day. So there's still many teams in the NFL haven't set their board yet. They'll do that in the weeks ahead when all the numbers kind of check in and you got every box checked. What's his 40? Right. What's his 3-cone? Then they'll set their board usually through lots and lots and lots of meetings and arguments. Give me a guy that you want the 49ers to go for, maybe not in round 1 because they don't have a round 1, but at 61.
Yeah, I think if there was a player that could fall, that would just be like, okay, we got to go get this guy. I'm going to throw out Kyle Gordon. Okay. Kyler Gordon. Yeah. He's not going to be there at 61, but let's just say he makes it to 40. Okay. And this is somebody that I think is the prototype of what a nickel cornerback will be in the future moving forward. Yep. I love this kid's film. I don't think he's going to be there. I think he's going to go in the first round, but it's going to be somebody that falls right to that 50s, 40s, whatever. That would be somebody I would be like, go get that guy, especially with, Allen Robinson, Cooper Kupp, whatever. You want to stop Cooper Kupp, you're going to need a guy like this with that body that can body up against those guys. The small nickel corner days, kind of like the small wide receiver 3 guys. I think that's a thing in the past. I think wide receiver 3s are going to be much more Juwan Jennings, Cooper Kupp, these bigger guys in the middle that are mismatches. And I think nickel's going to follow that role. Kyler freaking Gordon is going to handle that.
Yeah, that's a great name. He was on the Bruce Feldman freaks list
Yes, I
at the
love that
beginning of
list.
the year because he is that freaky of an athlete.
Yes.
Kyler Gordon, UW Huskies, check him out. I mean, he in a lot of ways he's the physical prototype at corner. I think you're right. I think once everybody looks at all those numbers, I bet you he goes like 18.
Yeah, it makes
something like
sense.
that. He's that athletic. I'll tell you the guy that I love. I love Devontae Wyatt for Georgia. Everybody talks about the big kid, and Georgia's defense has, N'Kobe Dean and all kinds of guys. They got
Yeah.
guys. That's the best defense in college football all year. But man, Devontae Wyatt, who wore 99, I believe. Well, what did he weigh? I'm not sure if he wore. Maybe he wore 92. But Devontae
95.
Wyatt,
95.
95. Devontae Wyatt, next to his counterpart, looked tiny, but the motor, the 40 time, the workout, the production.
He's a better player. He's a better player than
he's awesome.
Everybody wants to talk about Jordan Davis, and Jordan Davis is amazing and a physical freak. But if you want a football player, you're right. Wyatt's way better.
Yeah. And Davis is going to go first, though, right? Jordan Davis is going to wind up going in the teens, and Wyatt's going to go in the 20s or 30s, something like that.
Not if I was a GM. Not if I was a GM.
No,
I don't want to spend on a first and second down only defensive tackle in the first round. That's just me. The guy has a place in the first round and belongs there. But if you mean to tell me I'm picking between those two, I don't care if it's 3-4, 4-3, 5-2, 6-1. Don't care. I'm taking Wyatt's the guy.
One last one on the coaching staff. Brian Griese is there. Yeah. Anthony Lynn has been hired. Bobby Turner, who's considered to be a very good running back coach, is not going to be there. What did you think of those three coaching changes this year on the staff?
It's huge. Whenever I found out they bringing in Anthony Lynn, I love it. I think Anthony Lynn would be a great head coach and probably will be again. You just can't find anybody say anything negative about him. I love that. I hate that we lose Bobby Turner and the relationship that he builds with his running back room. I think that's very important. But Anthony Lynn is a great hire. Griese, huge, giant question mark. The one thing I'll say about Griese that makes me very happy, he was the quarterback responsible with replacing John Elway. He went through that. And so he's going to be able to help Trey with that, replacing Jimmy, who, you look at Jimmy and you talk about how much he's loved in this locker room. That's a tough ask. And so Brian's going to be able to help him with that, which I think is important.
John, man, we've had a lot of fun. We've gone over an hour and 5 minutes talking nothing but Niners. Let's put John's info back on the board. Of course, John Chapman, but he's got the draft party coming up. Where do you want to drive people if they want to be in Vegas at the Mandalay? 49errushroadtrip.com. That simple as that.
That's it, man. Days 1 and 2, and we're going to be out there. It's going to be incredible. Get an opportunity to meet Fred Warner, Elijah Mitchell, get a picture with them, get an autograph with them, plus drinks, food included for all those things. Exclusive brand new club that's been open about 3 weeks now. It's going to be awesome. So come on out, 49errushroadtrip.com, days 1 and day 2. And so, yeah, get over there, get your tickets. We are going to sell out. There's no doubt about that. So if you want to or if you're thinking about it, go check it out. Get it on the calendar.
So you show up in a drunken stupor at the Mandalay on draft weekend thinking you're going to this draft party. You're not, VIPs
Sadly,
only.
no. We have a limited number of tickets available. It's an exclusive private club just for us.
Look at that.
So, yeah.
That's not Krueger falling down at the rum jungle, throwing up in a bag. All right, John, good stuff, man. And we need to thank our sponsors again. Good Guys 38th All-American Get-Together, March 26th and 27th at the Alameda County Fairgrounds in Pleasanton, America's favorite car show. That's right, over 3,000 American-made and powered hot rods, muscle cars, and trucks. And they will all be out there on display. Check out the Nitro Thunderfest, the indoor lowrider exhibition. Who's going to win this year's Good Guys Fuel Curve Custom of the Year? Go to good-guys.com to register your ride, get tickets, or get more details. So good stuff, John. Love seeing your stuff on Twitter. Love checking you out on the podcast. Keep it rolling. Hopefully we'll talk more Niners as we get closer to the draft.
Yes, sir.
Take it easy.